continuing to devote the entire show to a single sentence. One sentence.
60 words.
That's all.
It's the 2001 authorization to use military force, was signed into law on September 18th, 2001. And together with BuzzFeed and reporter Gregory Johnson, we have manhandled these words.
Yeah, we have dissected, we have bisected,
Trisected,
and whatever other kind of sected you could
quadrisected.
to the AUMF, as it's called.
Yes. And, you know, we've looked at how the sentence has defined our last 12 years of counterterrorism.
And now?
How will it define our future?
Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. This is a very...
So when we were thinking about that Senate Armed Services Committee hearing, we ended up calling someone who sat on the committee.
Tim Kaine, senator from Virginia.
And who was there that day.
Yeah, that was a very kind of hair-raising day.
And Senator Kaine told us that one of the most hair-raising moments for him was when one of his fellow senators, Lindsey Graham, asked one of the Department of Defense officials,
Do you agree with me the war against radical Islam or terror, whatever description you like to provide, will go on after the second term of President Obama?
in other words,
How long do you think this particular war, as declared in the section, is going to go on?
Under my judgment, this is going to go on for quite a while, and yes, beyond the second term of the president.
And beyond this term of Congress?
Yes, sir, I think it's at least 10 to 20 years.
It was chilling.
because, like, this is already
The longest war in the history of the United States.
longer than Vietnam. And now a DOD official is saying add on 10 or 20 years?
So I said,
Is it the administration's position that
you tell me if somebody's born after 9/11,
Let's imagine in 2030.
they join a group that has just become associated with Al-Qaeda.
In 2030.
is it the administration's position that the AUMF would cover them and those organizations?
And without hesitation, the administration witnesses said yes.
As long as they become an associated force under the legal standard that was set out.
It's not limited in time, not limited in geography. Really troubling. But you know, I'm also troubled by another thing. I mean, you know the iconic, it's a New York picture of VJ Day kiss in Times Square.
August 14th, 1945.
There ought to be a day where those who have served in war, that you declare that the war is over and then you celebrate them.
You get asked sometimes by service families, like, when is this going to end? Does it ever come up?
Yes, yes, yes.
He told us it's something like 1 in 3 people in his state of Virginia are connected to the military. So he does get that question a lot. And the truth is, we all want a VJ Day. We need it. And so, 7 days after that Senate Armed Services Committee hearing, President Obama
It is a great honor
gave a speech
to return to the National Defense University.
where he seems to say, basically, it's time.
This war, like all wars, must end. That's what history advises. And that is why I intend to engage Congress about the existing authorization to use military force, or AUMF.
Basically, he announces that he would like to get rid of those 60 words and end this war.
Yeah.
But common sense tells you that these are different kind of enemy, not a state or a government. They make war in a different way.
Senator McCain has a great line. He goes, look, we're in an age of warfare where the war isn't going to end with the signing of a peace treaty on the deck of a destroyer. That's not going to happen these days. There's no clear start and ending.
And yet, the president,
He wants to end the war.
says Ben Wittes,
And every war has come to an end.
He sees himself as a person who came in to a country fighting 2 wars, and he brought them all to an end. And I think he wants to have done that.
but how do you do that? How do you end a war when the vast amount of people that you're calling the enemy haven't stopped fighting?
So what he does in the May speech, and it's extremely clever, and by the way, it's really well lawyered, is he announces a set of rules going forward for drone strikes.
America does not take strikes to punish individuals. We act against terrorists who pose a continuing and imminent threat to the American people.
That he's only going to use drone strikes when there's an imminent threat.
And it's well understood by people who understand this kind of stuff that in the Constitution and also in international law, The president is allowed to act unilaterally in self-defense when there is an imminent threat, meaning it's urgent and you can't feasibly capture that person. Ben fears that what President Obama was doing there by stressing that word
An imminent threat to the American people.
is that he was laying a new foundation. He was saying, when the AUMF ends, and I want it to end, I do have another way of justifying all of these things.
Maybe they wouldn't change.
So the drone strikes and the raids would continue.
As long as you have a capacious enough understanding of what the word imminent means, you might be able to continue a whole lot of this stuff. And then you don't have to go to Congress at all. And you can say you've ended the war. And the human rights groups will cheer for you. And we're going to mysteriously find that there are a whole lot of imminent threats.
Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. May God bless the United States of America.
And in the context of what happened to those 60 words, you do have to wonder what's going to happen to a word like imminent. And all the while, according to Ben Wittes and pretty much everyone we spoke with, we haven't really answered the big questions.
When do we want to attack the enemy? Who is the enemy?
And if we're going to be fighting them, even when we're not technically at war with them, then what's the difference between war and peace?
And that's why this whole subject is so unsettling. Like, if you don't know the common sense definition anymore of when you're at war and when you're in peace, then how do you write rules?
Yeah.
This was an attempt to begin a war, and so it had the usual beginning questions. Okay, you, who are you? You out there, where? You for how long? Till you surrender? No, you're not going to surrender. Like, all the usual business of warfare doesn't apply in this case, so then you have to think, now what do we do?
Yeah. It's just like one long improvisation. Huge thanks this hour to BuzzFeed and to their reporter Gregory Johnson. Check out Gregory's piece.
It's where we started with this.
We will link to it from radiolab.org. It's on BuzzFeed as well. It's called 60 Words and a War Without End, the untold story of the most dangerous sentence in U.S. history. That is a title right there. Also, thanks to the great Dylan Keefe for original music and Glenn Kochi for music from his album Adventureland. And also thank you to Beth Fertig and the WNYC archives for the 9/11 tape you heard at the top of the hour. And a quick update before we go. Since we first reported this story, there's been some talk of repealing the AUMF. So far, that has not happened. And as you probably heard, President Obama authorized airstrikes in Iraq against the group calling itself the Islamic State. We called up Gregory Johnson to get his take on this, on the legal justification for these strikes, if, in fact, the 2001 AUMF will be drawn into that mix.
Because the Islamic State is not affiliated with Al-Qaeda, the administration can't use that authorization. There's also the 2002 AUMF in Iraq, which Bush used to depose Saddam Hussein. Neither of the two AUMFs will support what the president wants to do in Iraq. And so this means that President Obama has to fall back on basically the least bad option, and that is using his Article 2 powers. The more months we have of these strikes, the more incumbent it will be upon the president to go get some sort of congressional authorization, which at this point he does not have.
You can find out more about these developments, plus watch the video of Barbara Lee's congressional speech and that Senate hearing we mentioned at radiolab.org. This hour was produced by Kelsey Padgett and Matthew Kilty and myself. I'm Jad Abumrad.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
See you next time.
Play the message, press 2. Start of message.
Hi, it's John Bellinger, an Arnold reporter calling. I'm about to read to you the text of your credits. Hi, this is Dan Clarkman, and I'm going to read the credits as Supervisor Ask Two. Radiolab is produced by WNYC and distributed by NPR. Radiolab is produced by Jad Abumrad. Our staff includes Alan Horn, Soren Wheeler, Tim Howard, Brenna Farrell, Molly Webster, Melissa O'Connor, Dylan Key, Jamie York, Lynn Levy, Andy Mills, and Kelsey Patchett, with help from Ariane Wack, Matt Kelty, Simon Adler, and Christnell Storr. Special thanks to Bruce Kane, Liz Mack, Steve Candell, Ben Smith, and Kerry Adams. That's a wrap.
In this message,